Hey everybody, I'm Amanda with DevExpress and welcome to today's webinar introducing DevExpress Universal 13.1 presented by DevExpress CTO Julian Bucknall, DevExpress Program Manager Seth Juarez, and DevExpress Technical Evangelist Usher. In this webinar, you'll see some of the newest products and enhancements in our latest release. There will also be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, but feel free to enter your questions at any time in the question section of your GoToWebinar control panel.
Hello everybody, this is Julian Bucknall. I'm the CTO of DevExpress, and with me, helping me out today is Seth Juarez, our analytics program manager. He does everything reporting and dashboarding and all that kind of good stuff. And Paul Usher, our technical evangelist on website stuff. It's very much an international affair today. Paul is in France, in Paris. Seth is in Glendale, in California, and I'm here in Colorado Springs. I will just warn people that, unfortunately, Colorado Springs is suffering from a rather drastic wildfire, and it's about 2 miles away from where I am at the moment. So I may disappear if the evacuation zone increases in size. I'm okay at the moment, but let's move on. So, DevExpress Universal 13.1, binding tomorrow to today. Now, what do I mean by this? Universal is all about platforms. We have a full breadth across all Microsoft platforms, WinForms, ASP.NET, ASP.NET MVC, as well as WPF Silverlight and Windows App Store apps. I sure wish we could continue to call them Metro apps. And we also have a strong thin client JavaScript web platform for mobile and desktop. Universal is, I would say, cost effective. It's royalty-free. Zero deployment costs on all platforms, simple licensing per developer. We don't do any kind of runtime royalties for the apps you build with our controls and frameworks. Universal is $2,199.99 and includes all source code to the controls, the frameworks, gives you all of the updates and upgrades for the next 12 months. And lifetime support as long as you are still using the product. At the end of the 12 months, we send you a nice little email saying, do you want to renew your subscription? Generally, it's maybe half the cost of the initial cost, or maybe a bit less. Universal comes with full documentation and help. I'm sure everybody here pretty much knows this anyway, but I just want to reiterate that the documentation is online, so you don't even have to install it. You can use Google to search the documentation. We have the largest selection of single topic training videos. We have a wide range of example programs. Some of them are online, especially for ASP.NET and so on. We do regular webinars on various development topics. We're going to be ramping these up again. And we fully support evaluation installs as well. Support, still the official thing is that the response is within a business day. Generally, it's much quicker than that. We tend to segregate the incoming questions into kind of easy, not quite so easy, hard. Easy questions get answered pretty quickly, and the middling and harder ones can take up to a day. We do have plans to improve the response time and plans for an escalation team. And of course, support does include evaluations. As I said earlier, we have 2 major releases a year where we introduce new controls, new libraries, functionality enhancements, and we're talking about 13.1, which is the first major release this year. We release generally in June and December. So 13.1 is the first major one this year, and we generally have monthly, or around 4 weeks, 5 weeks or so, minor releases. Universal 13.1, we sat down 6 months ago or so and try to come up with a plan, a goal, if you like, for this particular release. And one of the things that became really clear during our discussion is that traditional platforms still, I put down here, rule. They're still extremely valid. People are still developing for traditional platforms. So despite all the modern UI promotion by Microsoft over the past 9 months or so, Windows 8 still has desktop. People are still writing applications for the desktop. Windows 7 and earlier are still around, although Windows XP is probably coming to its end of life. I can't remember the exact date. Apps are still being written as Windows clients, Windows apps. But there will be a point, not necessarily this year perhaps, but there will be a point when we do transition over from, shall we say, a Windows 7 look on the world to a Windows 8 look on the world. When that balance does shift, there will be a need to transition your code seamlessly into the new era, and we've got a new control which will help you do that, and I want to raise the point now, so when I demonstrate it, you'll see what we mean. In essence, you can't abandon the code and investments you've already made. And web development is still growing in importance. We don't see much enthusiasm, if you like, about writing Windows App Store apps. Don't know why. So that was, part of our discussion at the beginning of the year. Interface is growing more and more important, I think, especially elegant interfaces. Tablets and phones and all these mobile devices are dictating what your apps should look like. Data being pushed forward, it's being more high contrast versus the Chrome, which is the bit that isn't data. Either gets removed or pushed back into the background, a very low contrast. Think, for example, lines on the grid. They're not really important, so you can de-emphasize them, make them a light gray instead of solid black. You'll still get all the information from the actual data within the grid, but the grid lines are not that important. Interactions, I think, are becoming more and more simple. People are getting used to the I touch once and something happens kind of thing, or my configuration dialog, I don't have a save, things like that. The interactions between the user and the software are becoming much, much simpler. And I think users are now expecting beautiful apps more than ever. We've done some work on this in the past, and we continue to do work on this with 13.1 and so on. Now, the other thing that we kind of were discussing is it seems the time to develop applications is getting shorter. I would say the time to develop controls and libraries and frameworks is also getting shorter. We're noticing that particularly. So in other words, to get your job done, you must rely more on the libraries you use and the frameworks you use being not necessarily a black box, but a certain dark gray box. They have to be deep, they have to be broad. You have to be able to rely on them to do this work. I mean, for example, let's take Entity Framework as a simple example. People use Entity Framework now, whereas when I started out in .NET, it was just ADO.NET, and you were grateful for ADO.NET at that point. So Entity Framework is a deeper, broader framework, and I think this kind of view of our software, of our tools, of our libraries is becoming more prevalent. And obviously, with these dark grey boxes, you're going to depend more on the vendor help and the assistance, the support, and all that kind of stuff, because it is a dark grey box. Sometimes things will not go the way you were expecting them to go, so you need help at that point. And of course, you expect that the quality of the software that you're relying on, you're purchasing, perhaps, quality standards are being met. DevExpress Universal 13.1, we decided to concentrate strongly on our traditional platforms, our Windows Forms customers, WPF, those kind of solid, thick clients, as they're called. Also, ASP.NET is certainly not going away, although we're starting to see a kind of shift between web forms and MVC. But it's still, people are writing those server-side applications. And of course, we are targeting new directions with our report server for enterprises, the document server library, and I was talking a bit about DX Mobile Phone.js, Chart.js earlier on. So we're not just saying, okay, 2013 is all about Windows Forms. We are definitely concentrating in that area, but we're not neglecting every other thing we do. So Windows Forms, are we completely nuts? We reckon that probably around 50% of our customers are still writing thick client Windows applications. And over the past year, the number of improvements, new controls, enhancements we've added to our Windows Forms control library has been, I will admit, small in number. We've kind of ticked it over, but we recognize that we haven't been as prevalent in that sphere as maybe we should have done. So we've got some big things in store for 13.1. And here's a quick list. We have a new spreadsheet control. It's not just a simple spreadsheet. It's definitely a control with things like a ribbon already attached to it with all the usual things you want to do within a spreadsheet. They're already there as part of the ribbon, so it's a lot easier to use than just dropping a spreadsheet control on the form and then going, oh dear, I need a menu, I need a ribbon, I need this, I need that, I need the other. A lot easier. PDF viewer control, we were hoping, this kind of goes back to we have less time to write these things than in the past. A PDF viewer is not quite finished. It's in beta, and it's a great little control for displaying PDFs. You don't have to shell out to Acrobat or some other application. Map control. We've had a map control in our other web-oriented platforms. We're now adding it to Windows Forms. It utilizes Bing Maps and OpenStreetMap. And it does all the usual kind of things. It'll the support for vector drawings on the map, say a route, or maybe some icons for special places within the map. We come with the standard UI elements, such as scrolling and zooming and all that kind of good stuff. Image picker. We're even providing an icon library with this. Standard looking control, but it is for WinForms, so you can slide through a bunch of images. The live tile manager, which is what I'll be showing off in a moment, and so I'll talk about that more in a moment. Pixel scrolling in the grid is a great one. We've been dithering about doing it for a while, but people seem to like pixel scrolling rather than record by record scrolling. Because they see it on their tablets, they see it on their mobile devices and all that kind of stuff. And then sparklines. WPF on that side of things, we added a banded grid view to the grid. What this is the ability to have several rows per record. So the columns basically become a band. We've had that in WinForms for a long while, so now it's there in WPF and Silverlight. A new chart wizard for WPF, and that's available at runtime too. Much simpler chart wizard than current one for WinForms. Property grid control, also known as the vertical grid in our parlance. Just think of the properties window in Visual Studio and you'll get the idea of what it's all about. You have a bunch of fields on the left and a bunch of values on the right, and you can edit them. So you can have, say, a configuration object and allow the user to edit the configurations within a property grid. And several improvements to the map control and so on. Dashboards, adding OLAP server mode, so we can report on data from an OLAP server. A new dashboard theme has been added, and we've been concentrating a lot on the printing of dashboards. Reporting, no word. Table of contents control. Sparklines again, new report designer for WinForms with some management controls. I had to add this word beribboned to my slide deck. A report preview for WPF and Silverlight that has a ribbon already attached. And I'm sure Seth will be now using this word to describe it in his demonstrations. Snap reports, so we've enhanced that with Data Source Wizard, an actual programmatic API, so you can generate and produce snap reports programmatically, nested fields, and so on and so forth. And as I said earlier on, a new enterprise level report server, and I believe that Seth is going to be talking about that in a moment. So on that note, let's jump over to Seth, and he'll demo a few things with regard to Windows Forms and WPF. So Seth, it's all yours if you want to grab the screen.
All right. Can you guys see my screen? You should be able to see it now. Yeah? Does it look good?
Looks good to me.
All right. Well, again, my name is Seth Juarez, and we love the questions that you have. Obviously, I can't show you every single little thing, so I've picked a couple of things that I think are fairly interesting. So if you have any questions about these things, feel free to put them in the question box. Sometimes I take a glance over to answer them. Okay, the first thing I'm going to show you is the Spreadsheet Control. It is probably one of the coolest things that we have. Let me show you how easy it is to build it. I'm going to use the DevExpress template gallery to build a super spreadsheet application that we can make in 5 minutes. So that's what I'm going to call the project so that you know what we're doing. Notice that our template gallery allows you to pick any kind of client-side features that you would like. I'm going to choose WinForms. I'm going to choose a blank application. We have others that you can choose from as well. You can see those right there. But I'll choose blank application, and I'll hit Create Project. Notice that this new way of doing templating will automatically make our form look a little bit better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get the Form Assistant and drop it on. The Form Assistant is something that allows us, because you know, usually when you wanted to use an extra form, you'd have to go ahead and change it over to an extra form in the class, but now we have this Form Assistant that will let us change it. You can also change to the skin that you want to use, so you can use whatever skin you'd like. So I'll just leave it at the one it is now, DevExpress style. And now let me show you how easy it is to do spreadsheet stuff. Drop. Then we can create the ribbon. Well, let me first change it to a ribbon form. I should have done that first. Convert to ribbon form. There you go. Now I can go like this and say create all bars. Give it a second while the DevExpress gerbils go to work. Next, I'll go to doc and parent container. Make this a little bit bigger. Take this out, and notice that I am literally done. I have made a spreadsheet application in like 5 seconds. I mean, I wasn't kidding when I said it was going to be a super duper spreadsheet application in 5 minutes. So let me run. Uh-oh, there was a problem. Looks like a linker exited. That's not my fault. That's a Visual Studio. So let me restart it again, and let me open that project that I just created. Give me 1 second. There it is, my super spreadsheet application that we can build in 5 minutes. Let me rebuild to make sure that it'll rebuild. Very good. Build succeeded. Let's open up the form. Opening up the file. Here it is. So let me run it now, and hopefully Won't have a problem now. Yeah, see, I don't know what happened to Visual Studio. That was weird. So now, notice that you have a spreadsheet application that works just like, well, your spreadsheet. You can do all the good stuff that you did before. For example, formulas. You can even save it out. So let's just save it to the desktop, and we'll call it our spreadsheet. And notice that this spreadsheet that we built can really be open inside of Excel. Let me move it over. So notice how fast I was able to generate an application that used spreadsheets. And I really didn't have to write that much code, other than the linker breaking, which I apologize. Notice it was just a drop, create, and done. That's some of the things that we're trying to do, is we're trying to make it a little bit easier to build things. So let me show you the map control. So I'm going to go File, New Project. I'm going to use the template gallery, and we're going to call it our map app with pins. Use the same thing that we did before, hit Create Project. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to drop a map control on there. Well, let's get the form assistant just to make it a nice form. So we'll go to Form Assistant and we'll convert to a regular form. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the map control. Notice that it's right there. Drop. I'll go ahead and say connect to OpenStreet server. I'll dock in parent container, and then I'll run it. Notice that we have a map application ready to go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the unthinkable. I am going to merge the spreadsheet application, the spreadsheet control that we have. I'm going to leverage that using the API to bring in a series of pins so that we can put some push pins on this particular application. So I'll drop on here a airports CSV that has an airport latitude and longitude. Next, we'll add some references, a couple of them. One of them is going to be devexpress.docs. We'll see that right there. The next one is going to be devexpress.spreadsheet. I'm sorry, devexpress.office. So we'll scroll down. There it is, devexpressoffice.core. And then we'll add devexpressspreadsheet.core, just a couple of things to bring it in. I'll hit OK. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to write some really good code really quickly. So let's just say init map, so we don't have this function, so I'll use lcoderush to declare the method. We'll put that there. Next, I'll just put some code in there real quickly. I'll use the spreadsheet. I'll use the map push pins. And notice that this code, all it really does is it grabs a layer, loads the workbook, and iterates through each of these values to add a map push pin. And now the layer that it's accessing, you can see as we go over to the smart tag, I'll go to edit layers. Notice it doesn't have a vector layer, but you can add a couple of layer types. So I'm going to add a vector item layer. There you go. Notice that this vector item layer can be bound. You see that right here. You can bind it. But I just wanted to write some code because we're developers after all. You can see that the init map function grabs this vector item layer that we just created, opens the workbook, airports.csv. Let me make sure that it's going to be in the output. So we'll hit copy always, just to make sure it's in the output. Takes the active worksheet, gets the code, lat long, and adds a push pin. You see that there? And then finally, we just center the map. So let me run this. We'll all cross our fingers. And there you see our map application with airports. Notice this was done really quickly with code, but just to show you the flexibility, I took a spreadsheet application that I built before, made a spreadsheet application, and then I went to the next level and used the spreadsheet API to bring in data to put on top of the map control. Question that Thomas has is, does the map only use Bing Maps or OpenStreetMap and not Google Map? No, we do not use Google Map, unfortunately, but we do use Bing Maps and OpenStreetMaps. So those are very powerful. Notice that what I'm doing just right now, you can see that this airport that I just loaded up in Phoenix it's spot on with latitude and longitude. So notice that if you have a database full of geodata, you can literally just tell it where to put things using the geopoint. Okay, that is the map. Let's go to WPF to show you some of the cool stuff that we're doing there. So let's go to new project. I'll do the template gallery again. Okay, so I'll write another project, WPF app. I'm going to go over from WinForms to WPF, and I am just going to select a blank application. Notice, just like WinForms, you have other options that you can select from. So I'll select blank application and hit create. Now, two things that are really annoying with WPF apps if you're doing MVVM style, the MVVM style approach. The first that's really annoying is knowing what XAML to get in there. That's tough. The second is if you're doing MVVM, the tough part is writing all those crazy view models. So let me show you how easy it is to do that with our stuff. So I'm going to add a new item, and this is not us, but Entity Framework. So I'm going to add a Northwind Entity Framework thing. Is there like a technical term for this? It's bound to the Northwind database. I'll hit next. And I'm going to pull some tables out. Not sys diagrams, though, and some views out. So this is just a standard Entity Framework stuff. I'll let the Visual Studio gerbils get to work. There we go. What it's doing is, if you've used Entity Framework before, Entity Framework is this thing that maps to the database, but it projects the data onto plain old C# objects, right? So let me build this. And let me go down and show you what it's done. Notice that the Entity Framework has built a series of classes that map directly to each table. Now for the magical part that we do. Notice that on your main window, we have this cool little helper. You can turn that off by going over to DevExpress and WPF controls, and you can disable these things. But these things allow you to quickly, if you click this, it'll build a ribbon. If you click this, it'll build a toolbar. But notice there's a special one, let me zoom in here, called User Control. And let me hit Create New. Notice that what's going to do is it's going to go ahead and create something for us. We can create a business object, so it'll create a detailed view of a particular business object, or it will create a collection view of an object, of a collection of objects, or just build the whole thing. So let's do that. I'm going to hit Run Wizard. I'm going to select, hold on, it's thinking. Computers think a lot sometimes. I'm going to select Entity Framework Model, Northwind Entities. Notice there's other models that you can choose from. We can hit Learn More here. You can look at that later when you're trying it out. Let me hit Next. We can select all the tables and all the views and hit Finish. So now what's happening is in the background, I don't know if you know this, but we have a special builder tool that will build everything. Here it is. This guy will build all the views and all of the view models. I'm not kidding. Look, he's still working. So as he's sitting there working, let me tell you what it's doing. For each object, it's creating a detail view and a collection view, and the detail view model and the collection view model. And so that's why not just gerbils are building this, but this guy. I grew up in Mexico. So yeah, this is good stuff. So it's generating the files here. Yes, I want to rebuild. Of course, SuperMono. And so now that it's being built, let me rebuild this thing. I think it already rebuilt. I don't know why I did that. Look at here. You have all of the views for the category collections and the category items themselves, along with the view models, because who wants to write this code? SuperMono wants to, not you. So look at this. All the commands are in there, the commanding, the actual binding. This is absolutely wonderful. Let me go back to the main window view model and show you the next thing that SuperMono will do for you. I'll hit User Control. And notice that, remember before it was empty? Now SuperMono has put every single view in there that we had from before. And these views come directly from Entity Framework. SuperMono built the models and the views, and when we go through them, you can see that we have them all sort of represented here. Or you can just do the lazy thing and do the whole thing. Now, again, not to overplay him, but look at this. So I'm going to hit play, and I wish we had like superhero music for you to listen to, because, yeah, look what SuperMono did for you. Notice that I'm opening details. I can click on Chai. It's going to open the individual thing. Seriously, there's nothing SuperMono cannot do when it comes to building DevExpress views. I know. It's shocking. Shocking. Okay, and so that's some of the WPF stuff that we've managed to do. Really, and I'd like to speak just in a holistic way. We are really interested in making it so that your time is focused on your business and not necessarily the cruft. Let SuperMono take care of that for you. Finally, in that spirit, let me show you another thing that we've been building. We have the DevExpress report server that I'm running in this super secret VM on my desktop. Look, see, there it is. It's running inside of there. And so I have the report server. This is a no-touch, easy-to-deploy way to manage reports inside of your particular organization. You can manage users. Hold on. SuperMono apparently is tired. So as this loads up, there you go. So there's the users. You can manage their individual permissions for users. Look at that. And beyond that, you have groups. And you can create groups and add users to groups. And let me show you the types of permissions that you can do. So let me go add a permission. So imagine creating a report in a particular category. Imagine creating data shapes without the intervention of a developer. Imagine being able to schedule and disperse these reports quickly and easily. So you have access modes along with scopes. So you can allow users to read, modify, and delete in all categories, or even specific categories, for example, product reports. You can create categories of reports. You can also create reports that you can view right from your browser. And these reports are, you know how when you make a mistake or Jim messed up the report, we actually keep a history of all of the reports and changes that have been made, so you can revert, you can go back, you can look at the actual report. These reports are parameterized. Hold on, it's loading. There we go. Notice that these are parameterized reports. You can also schedule reports. You can look at the actual reports that have been generated in the past. Literally everything you wanted to do with reporting, but you really did not want to code, we have done it for you. Just, again, that good. And so let me go to scheduling to show you how you can schedule things. So imagine you built a report and you want everyone to get it at 9 a.m., whatever the report, I'll call it that. You can choose a report. You can say how often it recurs. You can hit add task. You can set the parameter values. And you can select who is going to receive it. So notice that quickly I was able to create a distribution. Now all of your reporting needs satisfied quickly and easily, and without this onerous cost. And let me go to DevExpress.com and show you we are not embarrassed about how much these things cost. So let me go to pricing. That's it. You get 15 cals for $19.99. You can buy additional cals for $500. I dare you to find something cheaper that does the same kinds of things. Additionally, the way the system is architected, you can distribute the workload across multiple machines without a ridiculous per CPU cost. So please, if you have any questions about this, let me know. I'm happy to show you those things. All right, Julian, I think that is all. I don't have any questions, I don't think.
I think somebody wants to buy SuperMono.
Yeah, SuperMono is, we hired him, and he is doing all the MVVM work for us right now. So he's kind of busy, right? Can you imagine how many view models he's building as we speak? Right.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Amazing.
Right, let me grab the the screen here. Oh, reply to the show my screen. Let's just check I've got the right thing going. Okay, so that was a quick, I mean very quick, go through some of the stuff we have for Windows Forms and WPF. There is one thing I want to actually demonstrate that Seth did not, and that is our Windows Live Tile Manager. It's actually a WinForms control, and it's essentially for those situations where you have a WinForms application and yet you want to start using the start screen on Windows 8. So what I've got is, let me just jump over to a particular application. So see, try to find it. Let me just, it's still working. What this application is actually doing is it's generating some random data. It's been running for a while now, for about 30 minutes or so, and every now and again the trend line, which is the kind of pink line, changes direction from pointing downwards to pointing upwards. It's a kind of moving average, and so there's as we can see, this Windows Forms application has a kind of live tile in it, saying, oh, I've just changed from down to down, I'm going to change to up in a minute, and all that kind of stuff. Now, wouldn't it be nice if there was a live tile on the start screen which also had that live tile? So let me jump over to my start screen, and if you look over here, the KPI demo, the third one here, let me just wiggle it a bit, that one. That is connected to the Windows Forms application and is updating itself from data that is provided by the Windows Forms application. The way this works is, since Windows Forms applications can't actually be on the start screen, we have a Windows App Store app called the Live Tile Manager. So let me open it up. And the Live Tile Manager acts as a conduit, a communications channel between the Windows Forms application and the start screen itself. So when the Windows Forms application says, hey, I want to update my live tile, it sends a message to the Live Tile Manager. The Live Tile Manager then updates the tile. Go back to the start screen, and as we see here, the live tile is updating as we go along. If I touch the live tile, the Live Tile Manager will switch me to the Windows Forms application. So let me do that now. And we're back at the Windows Forms application. So just through a touch, you go through a kind of staging area, if you like, for the Live Tile Manager, and then you get back to the Windows Forms application. So I can jump back to the Live Tile Manager. Oops. Go back to the live tile itself, and as you see, it's updating still in the background. So this is one way where we're binding tomorrow's technology to today's code. You have right now Windows Forms applications. Maybe you're not using Windows 8 at the moment, but given the fact that new PCs come with Windows 8, you'll probably be starting to use Windows 8, and you'll start to see on the start screen, tiles. And you will want to use those tiles, maybe not without writing a complete modern UI application. So, back to my ASP.NET. Let's talk about that for a while. We've added continuous scrolling or endless paging. This is the effect that you have with what could be viewed as an infinite amount of data. You display the first set of items, and the user starts scrolling down, and you basically have the control, the data manager, providing new data as the user scrolls. So this is like an infinite list. The user is scrolling down and down and down. You're continually providing extra data. It's not like our server mode, where we have a paged manager, so we load up pages at a time. This is more about the effect you get when you use the timelines in Twitter or Facebook. So continuous scrolling is available for the grid and the tree list and all that kind of good stuff. On ASP.NET MVC, we've added the image slider from ASP.NET, the file manager from ASP.NET. We have a capture control also from ASP.NET, so we've created extensions, extension versions of those, and we've added an image gallery control. Now, to show off some of these things, I'm going to call over to Paul in Paris. Paul in Paris, are you there?
I'm going to be stepping through some of these examples on our fantastic looking new web page. Seth showed you one of the cool new things, which is the Visual Studio template gallery, and there's some really nice things inside there. But certainly with the endless paging, what we've got here is a data grid that's been bound to some data, and traditionally what you'd expect to see on this page would be a page of control showing all the different elements and allowing you to step through at a cached amount. But what we're going to see here, as I scroll down the page, as it comes close to the bottom with the scroll bar, you'll see a little loading panel appear, and then it's going to refresh that data in real time. Now, some of these demonstrations have actually been slowed down slightly just to give you that loading panel as well. But it really is quite cool there. You'll see no matter how far I scroll down the page, I can keep scrolling. So it removes that page of control and gives you a really nice continuous scrolling feeling. In the same vein, you can also use it in two different modes. You've got an on-click mode, and you've also got the on-scroll mode. Now, the scroll mode was what we looked at just before, and the on-click event, you can see this nice template grid view here, and you'll see that we've got this option, say, show more items. So again, in place of the traditional pager control, when I click on the show more items, I'm going to get the loading panel appear to let the user know that something's happening, and more data is then loaded to the grid. I'll try that again and click show more items, and it will then load. So it's a really nice new way to provide some of that data without going through the long paging options that were there. Now, Julian mentioned some of the MVC controls that are being brought forward. So the image slider, file manager, and capture control. But one of the really cool new controls that has been added is the image gallery. Now, if we just switch to this folder binding example here, we'll see that we've got these thumbnails, and the image gallery is representing whatever pictures are sitting inside a folder. We can see that we've got a pager control at the top, so I can page through those. We get the UI representing the loading panel, bringing everything back. And I will apologize for my poor internet connection here. One of the really nice options, you can set the number of rows per page, so we can switch between 3, or basically you control the different elements at that point. And then this really nice little option here that says, hey, I might be doing a photography website or doing something that I want to apply a simple watermark. And we can see that some of the functionality you've got at your fingertips. We say apply watermark, and those images are going to be re-rendered and have a nice little watermark showing through them. Just wait for that to come back up. Certainly, I think Seth called them Visual Studio gerbils. So at this point, it's going to be Chrome gerbils running around in the background doing all the work. But we can see in the bottom right-hand corner, each of those thumbnails, we're able to apply that watermark across our images and give it that extra little touch. Some of the other things that have been added to the ASP.NET controls in the 13.1 release, things such as the what we call null text. Now, null text Mehul did a great post on this. It may seem like a strange name for it, but effectively it's the text that you can put inside a control while you're waiting for the user to do some data entry. In the past, we may have done this with filling in the text property, or in the WinForm world, we would have had hidden labels and all sorts of things to do it. But it's really quite cool. Here I've got a standard ASP.NET text box control out of the DX control suite, and I've nominated that I want the prompt for the user to say, enter your name. Now, as soon as the user clicks on that control, the text disappears. If there's some values in there, obviously it stays hidden. And if the value is returned back to a null value, it's going to show that prompt again. And as you can see here, that applies to any of the control sets, whether it be a text box, a drop-down combo, or even a scroll, spin control, date combo, notes, etc. So there's a lot of really nice little polishing techniques being applied to the controls in this 13.1 release. And one of the other really cool things is that we've added support for SharePoint 2013 as well. So whether you're building up those web parts, etc., everything around the ASP.NET is becoming very, very mature and giving you a lot more control in every application you want. And at the end of the day, it's probably a good thing that we don't need SuperMono to do some of these things. So what we'll do now, I think, Amanda, if I'm not mistaken, we also we've got some poll questions that we may want to ask as well.
We do have a question that came in on that null text. Is that effect also available in WinForms?
Julian?
Does anyone know?
That's a really good question.
Yes.
I wasn't watching the whole time, but yeah, you can do certain things like that in WinForms. You have null text kinds of things, but I'm not sure if it's going to be quite the same. But hopefully that answers your question in a really non-answery kind of way.
Okay, so here I am again. Windows 8 XAML controls. Now, we first released our Windows 8 XAML controls as part of a product called DXtreme, which we released in 12.2 timeframe, or the beta came out a little bit before that. Now, the problem that we found, although it seemed like a good idea at the time, the problem we found with DXtreme is we wanted to create this kind of mobile product. And so we kind of jammed together Windows 8 XAML controls with HTML5 JavaScript controls. And to be honest, it didn't really work out that well. So with 13.1, we split out the Windows 8 XAML controls into their own product, into their own platform line. So they're part of DXperience, they're part of Universal, or you can buy them on their own. So for the two major new controls for 13.1 for Windows 8 XAML, or Modern UI, or Metro, or Windows App Store apps, are a Radial Menu, which has been inspired by OneNote, and a Flyout control. Let me quickly demonstrate these, as I have control, as it were. Sorry, I didn't want to go there. So let me just start up. So context menu, the kind of rotary, let me just type some text in here. So let me tap, and I click this little icon appear to the side here, and we get a rotary menu. I can basically hit on alignment and say, okay, I want right alignment, and you see the text actually change within that text box, or maybe left alignment. And this control is built especially for touchscreen. So I'm using it's a Dell XPS 12 for this particular webinar, and I'm just touching on these icons. No mice have been harmed in the creating of this thing. I'm just using the rotary menu here. So that's the radial menu. I keep on calling it rotary menu. Radial menu. So a nice user interface for especially touch screens. I mean, that doesn't mean to say you can't use the mouse, but it's certainly there. I can just shrink it and it'll disappear. And then the flyout pop-ups, flyout control, essentially is a touch that, and it's this thing that just appeared. It's a kind of flyout. You can think of it as one of those cartoon talk boxes. So let's click this one, top right. If I click one in the middle, it appears, pops up over the center. So these icons are not part of the flyout control. They're just a way of getting the flyout. So I could, if you have some kind of, for example, a prompt, and you need, instead of using a tooltip, it's kind of nicer to have this kind of speech bubble effect with the flyout control. So that's the two new controls of Windows 8. There are other enhancements to the existing controls, obviously. So let's just move on, and that's in fact it. We've come to the end of the presentation. I'd like to thank both Seth and Paul for helping me out. I will point out I only had internet access 20 minutes before we started, so I had no time to get everything ready. So I thank them both for helping me out, both Seth and Paul. And I'll hand it over to Amanda and all your questions, if there are any left.
All right, so we do have some questions that came in. One from Thomas. I have a question regarding the map control. Is it also available for ASP.NET MVC?
Currently, it is not, but it is certainly something that we will strive to get in there, but I cannot give you a particular time.
From Mike, I didn't see any XPO changes in 13.1. Is DevExpress still committed to XPO for the foreseeable future?
Absolutely, Mike. In fact, in the report server that I showed you, we use XPO a great deal. When it comes to our dashboard, when you look at that cool wizard that lets you sort of do queries into whatever database you want, we are using XPO. And so not only, it's not necessarily that we're not releasing features for XPO, but as we use it internally, as we dog food it, it's just going to get better. And so overall, we really didn't say anything about it, but it is getting better simply because we're using it in our internal products, like our analytics dashboard, like our report server, etc. Hopefully that answers that question.
Great. Let's see. We have a comment. It would be great to implement your good ideas for all platforms at the same time. This would avoid.
Yeah, let me answer that. That is a difficult thing to do, and the reason why is because, as you know, WinForms is GDI based. WPF is not. It is a vector XAML based thing. And so while we do take great efforts, like let me give you a specific example. When it comes to the spreadsheet control, we spent about a good long, I'm not going to tell you exactly how long, but a good deal of time working on the actual underlying API. And the API was so solid. In fact, we weren't even planning on releasing a viewer like I showed you for spreadsheet. But because the API was so strong, it was really easy to build a viewer right there at the end. But we will be adding other viewers to the spreadsheet API as we go along. But it's hard to do it all at the same time. As with any company, we don't have infinite resources, and so we have to make a plan for how we're going to release things. And we wanted to give WinForms some love as we came out in 13.1, but that's not to say that we're not going to add, for example, a spreadsheet control, WPF, or any other of the platforms. It's just hard to do it all at the same time, and like any company, we have to make trade-offs.
Cool. Thank you, Seth. Thomas asks if he can send questions through Twitter. Well, of course. That's why we give you their Twitter handles. Look at all those. Yeah. At Seth Juarez, at JM Bucknall, and at UsherNet.
Correct.
Tweet
and of course,
away.
And of course, there's also at DevExpress.
At DevExpress.
Wow. Did the fire just get him?
DevExpress as well.
Oh.
What? No, I'm here.
Or you can also, you can tweet me if you want, at It's Blondie. I mean, why not?
Michelle has a question as well.
Okay.
Will the spreadsheet component read any Excel sheet except for the VBA code? Yes. In fact, that is exactly what we will do. We will read the spreadsheet, but if you have VBA code in there, if you open and save it back, it's going to destroy the VBA code because that's not something we read, right? VBA code is, don't tell anyone, but it's evil. Okay, so that was just my little rant there.
Julian, do you want to, well, I don't know, anyone want to take on VCL when, I believe we're releasing the next version at the end of June?
Oh, yeah. So, yes, what we've been talking about today is Universal 13.1, in other words, all of our .NET products, no matter what kind of platform. Obviously, VCL is still an ongoing product. The VCL subscription revs its releases maybe 2 weeks. Seth, are you there?
Yes.
Maybe 2 weeks or so after the .NET release. So I would expect that maybe next week. We're still finalizing the install and testing the install and all that kind of stuff. So VCL 13.1 should be available well before the end of the month.
Awesome.
And then we'll do another webinar.
Yes, we will. All right, that's all of the questions, and we are at our hour time. So thank you, gentlemen, all of you from Colorado, from Paris, and then Seth and I here in boring old Glendale. All right, everybody, we have a webinar coming up that you can register for at devexpress.com/webinars. It is June 25th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm trying to speak over Seth's typing.
Oops.
It is in conjunction with Code Project, and it is presented by Seth Juarez. It's dashboards for the web and tablet. Creating powerful dashboards is an essential business skill. In this webinar, see how to create and lay out an informative dashboard complete with filtering and drill down.
What?
Yeah.
I would totally go to that.
I hope you'll go to it. Also learn how to prepare the dashboard for consumption on both the web.
SuperMono will be in attendance. Sorry, we're ruining your read there, Amanda. But yes, it's going to be so exciting. You'll literally not be able to sleep all night. I can't even go to sleep until then. That's how good it's going to be.
Wow, brilliant. Again, so you can register for that at devexpress.com/webinars. And that is it for this webinar. Thank you all so much for joining us. Please let us know your thoughts on 13.1. You can email any of these guys on this call, or you can email webinars@devexpress.com, or the big kahunas at management@devexpress.com. All right, everybody, thank you, Seth. Thank you to Paul and to Julian, and of course, thank you all for joining us. Bye-bye.